I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. It's your neighbor. Okay, perfect.
You know.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
We're talking a little bit about it. It was something. I didn't drive around Western just to see all the buses.
All right, today's invocation will be offered by Seth Bucklaw.
I have the pleasure of giving the first invocation after the rules change was announced, but not actually seen. So we'll find out today if I have broken any of the rules. Would you bow your heads with me? God, we thank you for the heat in the building that we're in right now, for the opportunity that we have to gather, for the food we've enjoyed and the fellowship that we've shared. We thank you for this chance to learn, to engage with one another. Thank you for the gift that this day is. God, please help us here in Wooster. Help us to care for the needy, to look out for the downtrodden, to provide for the less fortunate, to lift up those who are despondent. Help us to work to build the community in which we work and live. Help us also to see the work of Rotary International as our mission. Would we give generously of our time, of our talents, and our treasure? Thank you again for this day, which you have created and given to us to use. Would we steward well all the many resources that you have entrusted to us? We ask this in your name. Amen.
Welcome. A light crowd today to be expected. And it's cold out, so thank you for braving the coldness and coming out and joining us today. At least it's sunny out, so at least we have that in our favor. So, I mean, you guys would probably be shocked if I wouldn't have picked today as National Day as Martin Luther King Day. So there it is. You know, we're excited to have the Wooster speech and debate team here to kind of give us a little bit of a presentation. And I had some other announcements that changed a little bit because Armando and Erica aren't here today. So I'll wait till they're here to kind of show off them a little bit. They had a great weekend. And so I wanted to show you some pictures and that kind of stuff, but we'll wait till next week on that one. So with that, we have Secretary Lynn and Secretary's report.
Thank you, President Courtney. We have one visitor, past President Terry Snoddy will introduce our visitor. Yes.
My name.
Whoa.
Is my wife Korea.
And we have one announcement from Joy Schmitz. And while Joy is coming forward, a reminder that if your name is on the list on your table, the cooks would like to know your birthday month so we can celebrate that occasion with the first week cake. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to encourage all of you to keep an eye on your email this week because the official invitation for the 2024 Wooster Rotary Club wine and bourbon tasting is on its way. The event will be on March 7th in the evening at Greystone, and we have some new features this year, some non-alcoholic wines, some premium pours, and some special food pairings. So check out that email. It is a ticketed event this year also. That's a new change. So we are requesting that you purchase your tickets through the link that's provided in the email. So more information is coming on that, and you can always reach out to me or to Phil if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, Ron, would you like to make your way to the podium to give us our next rules that we need to follow?
This is a half-hour continuation of Mike Steiner's program. This aspect of the program is about program. The Wooster Rotary program I ever attended was introduced by me. The speaker was also a Rotarian from a club in the Youngstown area. This topic was something like the health benefits of herbal supplements. I did not invite the speaker to our podium. He was scheduled by another member who asked me to introduce the speaker. In his opening remarks, he listed all the clubs he had spoken to as if that qualified him to appear in Worcester. At that point, I was looking around for a place to hide. He then launched into a 20-minute blatant sales pitch for the crap he was peddling. Worse, it was clear that he had only joined Rotary for the sole purpose of promoting himself and his business to all other Rotarians. If I had had any guts, I would have stood up and excused him from the meeting on the grounds that he was at risk of experiencing his own personal health emergency. I mention this history to reinforce a cardinal rule about Rotary programs, that our podium should not be used for any form of promotion, whether personal, business, or cause. Here's another example. We are all interested to hear about the work of a nonprofit social service program which provides valuable service to our community. However, it is inappropriate for the presenter to make a pitch for donations from the club or its members. A second important rule deals with the presentation of programs on political matters, ballot issues, or other controversial topics. Such programs are not prohibited. However, differing opinions must be presented in a format which allows equal time to all speakers and their various viewpoints. Keep in mind that our club does not endorse specific political candidates. The club is, however, empowered to comment or take a position on a particular ballot issue, but only after such comment or statement of position has been approved by our governing board. This policy does not preclude a presentation by a sitting government official for the purpose of explaining official duties, describing the state of the community, or describing projects which have already been approved for implementation. Rule number 3, programs should be in good taste in keeping with the 4-way test. Keep in mind that our club is a healthy mix of leaders from business and professions, nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, and community government. Our club will remain strong when our programs are timely, informative, and which respect the diversity of our membership. Some additional notes. The club president should tightly control the meeting agenda to make sure that the speaker has adequate time for presentation without going past our dismissal time of 1 o'clock. We always have some Rotary business to bring to the club before the program, and when the agenda is full, the club president should start the meeting early enough to ensure that the speaker can begin by 12:30. In the recent past, our presidents have done an excellent job of time management. Courtney?
Thank you.
Each of us can help in this regard by keeping our announcements brief. When inviting someone to speak, it is only fair that you advise the speaker of these rules. It is also useful for our speakers to understand our audio-visual arrangements and other presentation details. Our board has prepared a program guidelines document which can be made available in advance to every speaker to properly prepare the speaker and to prevent embarrassment or misunderstanding. Finally, turn off your cell phone during a speaker's presentation. Enjoy a half-hour break from your electronic world. Cell phone use is embarrassing and rude, unless, of course, the speaker is selling herbal supplements. As an aside, I'd just like to note that Rotary International has given past president and longtime Rotarian Tony Biggio a lifetime exemption from this rule.
Thanks, Ron. All right, up next then we have Doug Drishman. He's going to introduce our presentation today.
You guys at Tony's table explain that joke to him. If any of you were out and about on Saturday and drove past Wooster High School, you may have noticed that that wonderful facility's huge parking lot was jammed to the gills with cars. And across the street, the parking lot was jammed with buses. There were at least two things going on that day. One was the conference swim meet, where Worcester's probably, I think you'd have to say, its most successful athletic program was doing quite well, as they always do in the swimming competition. But also, our speaker today was hosting a huge speech and debate tournament. And it's just delightful to me when I drive by there and I see that, and you see all the activity and all the kids that are participating in that. Wooster Rotary has been a longtime sponsor of that particular tournament here. And the person who's the brains of the outfit is Holly Custer, who will speak a little bit about the program today. And then she will in turn introduce our two speakers today. So please welcome to the podium, Holly Custer.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I love coming to the Rotary on Martin Luther King Day to have some of our speakers present for you so they can demonstrate the skills that they are learning through speech and debate. As Doug mentioned, the Wooster Rotarians have been a longtime sponsor of our speech and debate tournament that we host in Wooster. And we are so grateful for this collaboration because thanks to your generous sponsorship of our tournament, we are able to focus our fundraising needs to other aspects of our team, including ensuring that no student is unable to participate because of financial situations. We are able to cover hotel fees, competition dress, and any other needs that our students have because you are also generous in helping us make sure that when we host our tournament, we can provide adequate trophies to those students who do so well at our tournament. This year at our tournament over the weekend, we had 58 schools represented, and that represents both high school teams as well as middle school teams. We are really excited in the Worcester community this year. We have a middle school team that has started competing, and we're hoping that we can get that team really built up so that it can start to really feed into a stronger high school program. COVID really had a negative impact on our numbers, and we are the largest team that we've seen at Wooster High School since COVID. So it's really exciting for us to see that growth and that change. And that's really a large part because we don't have to worry so much about fundraising because you guys are able to support us. So we really appreciate that. We had over 1,100 students in the building on Friday and Saturday. And our team as a whole placed 6th out of those 58 teams. So it was really exciting. But today we have two speakers and their families here. Our speakers today are Christian Arnold, who is a senior at Wooster High School, and he is going to be studying at Bowling Green State in the fall, studying sales and service marketing. And our other speaker today is a sophomore, Daniel Junn, who is a member not only of our speech and debate team, but numerous other teams and clubs at the high school. But he likes to take any chance he can to speak because he knows his voice is powerful. So with them are their family members, Christian's mom, Shauna Arnold, and Daniel's parents, Hung Young Jun and Gina Yi. And so we're really excited to have them here today. And I would like to ask Christian and Daniel to come forward to present their discussion on disparities in our education system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
All right, cool. Okay. In an article published by the Harvard Gazette on February 15th of 2023, they would illustrate the illustrious career of Deval Patrick, a very successful African-American politician that served 2 terms as the Massachusetts governor. And while, of course, Deval Patrick would become the commencement speaker for the Harvard students back in 2016, revolving around his success as a politician and as a human being. His success story is riddled with struggle. As Deval Patrick would explain, that his public education system oftentimes more than not failed to give him a chance to succeed. And although Mr. Patrick is one of the few instances in which success is tied to struggle, with every story that is Deval Patrick, there are hundreds and hundreds of more students that are failing opportunity and environment in which our schools simply do not give enough to succeed. And today being Martin Luther King Jr. Day, in which he would preach values such as justice and equality, we need to look at a system in which inequality has played, which is our education system, and our title, which is our disparities in the education system, as we will be speaking today on the many problems in which we fail to provide equal success for our students and potential successes. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, that darkness cannot be driven out by darkness, but more than driven out by light. We need to make sure that we do not neglect these problems and therefore address them to offer solutions.
Racial disparities in education constitute a deeply entrenched and pervasive issue within our society, reflecting systemic inequalities that adversely affect students from diverse racial backgrounds. One glaring manifestation of this problem lies in the unequal distribution of educational resources across different communities. Historically marginalized neighborhoods, often predominantly inhabited by people of color, tend to receive fewer funds and resources, resulting in substandard schools that struggle to provide quality education. For instance, schools in low-income urban areas may lack updated textbooks, advanced technology, and extracurricular programs that are essential for a well-rounded education. Additionally, disparities in school funding contribute to a cycle of disadvantage, as inadequate resources hinder the ability of students in these schools to compete on an equal footing with their peers in more affluent areas. Moreover, racial disparities manifest disciplinary practices where students of color face disproportionate rates of suspension and expulsion compared to their white counterparts. This phenomenon is often linked to implicit biases among educators and administrators, leading to school-to-prison pipeline. Leading to harsher consequences for minor infractions committed by students of color. So the school-to-prison pipeline is a stark example of this, where punitive measures disproportionately impact students of color and contribute to the perpetuation of systemic inequalities. Overcoming these obstacles require a multifaceted approach that addresses both resource allocation and systemic biases. To tackle the resource disparity, policymakers must prioritize equitable distribution of funding, ensuring that schools in undeserved communities receive adequate financial support. This includes investing in infrastructure improvements, updating learning materials, and providing professional development opportunities for teachers in these areas. Additionally, implementing policies that promote diversity and inclusivity in educational curricula can contribute to a more inclusive learning environment, fostering cultural competence among students and educators alike. So addressing implicit biases and disciplinary actions necessitates comprehensive training programs for teachers and administrators to raise awareness of the potential biases and cultivate a more just and impartial disciplinary process. So implementing restorative justice practices can also be instrumental in creating a positive school culture that focuses on understanding and addressing the root causes of behavioral issues rather than punitive measures. In essence, overcoming racial disparities in education requires a commitment to systemic change. And by addressing resource inequities, tackling implicit biases, and fostering inclusive learning environments, we can work towards creating an education system that empowers every student, regardless of the racial or ethnic background, to thrive and to succeed.
And while, of course, none of us really wanted to wake up today and hear about the struggles of education, it is a necessary topic. And as aforementioned, my previous speaker has stated, in that there's many problems such as racial disparities, there's simply not just one problem in which signifies the struggles within our education system. Therefore, we're going to move on to another problem, which has plagued our education system for quite some time, which is standardized testing, which only eliminates the possibility of more equal possibilities for development of students. Now, a little bit of history of standardized testing. I know it's going to be a little bit long, but hold on. So anyways, during the Bush administration, the No Child Left Behind Act would normalize standardized testing. However, more than oftentimes than not, we would see a lot of these standardized testings make it a one-size-fits-all for all schools, making it inadequate to many of these education systems that did not provide the correct or equal amounts of resources, making it so those schools that do not have enough resources being sorely punished because of standardized testing, something that should be unacceptable in a system today in which we should preach for equality and development of our next generation. And yet, although we are in the Every Student Succeeds Act since 2015, we're still seeing a lot of problems. As according to the National Education Association, one of the largest labor unions concerning teachers of universities and schools since March 30th of 2023 in an article titled that day, it would explain that currently many students within standardized testing offer little to no hope when trying to succeed. In fact, an average in year, students take around 8 standardized tests. And while an average test might just be annoying for a student, standardized testing only offers a glimpse, a snapshot of what schools have to offer to their students. Possible solutions include in this article such as performance-based assessments or PBA or MCIEA, which offer much more immersive and therefore a much better grasp as to where our schools are in providing education and equality to the success and development of our students. Simply, things such as standardized testing is a relic of the past, a relic that we need to relinquish and therefore move on to the future. But we're not done just yet, as currently there is a lot of resources that are being neglected within our education system, which is going to be our third but last point. That is showing the problems within our education system, which is inadequate resources. According to the Economic Policy Institute, currently, annually per year, we're underfunding schools by $150 billion. Now, I'm no mathematician, but $150 billion sounds like a lot of money. A lot of money that could be used to developing the next generation, but is it? A lot of money that is simply a question of when it's going to arrive, not how it's going to arrive. And this is simply not acceptable, especially when considering that a lot of these schools are being funded by state and local, nearly none federal. As later on in this same article, they would explain that currently a majority of resources brought to these schools are because of state and local assets. Nearly no revenue is allotted from the federal government. And although a lot of these schools are going to be reliable on state and local resources, and while schools such as Wooster High School are quite fortunate to have a lot of resources, such from Rotarians as you all, but we're still seeing that a lot of low-income schools are still struggling. As this same article would later realize, that after the recession of around 2008, low-income schools would find nearly decades in trying to recover. In fact, many of these would only try to get even to around the years of 2016 to 2017. We're seeing a lot of low-income schools barely meet even in revenue after economic policies hit them hard. Our children and kids' developments should not be tied to economic policy. Therefore, resources need to be allotted to the point where low-income schools get the equivalence to make sure that our kids and students have the equal playing field to succeed.
The must I add on top of the standardized education idea is that the standardized testing idea fails to recognize that not every single student is a good test taker, and these standardized testing should not dictate the students' intellectual abilities. But to conclude, the profound racial disparities entrenched in our education system demand urgent attention and concerted efforts. It is evident that systemic inequalities create significant hurdles for students from diverse racial backgrounds, perpetuating a cycle of disadvantage. The unequal distribution of educational resources and disproportionate disciplinary practices underscore the pressing need for change. To break free from this cycle, it is imperative for us to advocate for an education system that provides an equal chance for every single student. Policymakers must prioritize fair distribution of funding, ensuring that schools in historically marginalized communities receive the necessary financial support to succeed. This involves investing in infrastructure, updating learning materials, and offering professional development opportunities for teachers in underserved areas. So moreover, addressing implicit biases within the education system is crucial. Comprehensive training programs for teachers and administrators can help raise awareness and promote a more just disciplinary process, as stated previously. In essence, overcoming racial disparities requires a commitment to systemic change. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, thank you.
Wow, thank you guys. And I think I saw, were you behind the table with me handing out awards?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
perfect. Were you too? I don't think so. Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't recognize you, but yes. Perfect. Well, we appreciate your guys' time today, and we'd like to present you with this rendition of the Rotary Wheel with four-way tests on the back. It's made locally and donated by or made by the students from the Village Network and donated. So there's one for you. Sorry, sorry, there you go.
Thank
There you go. Okay. Thank you for taking the day off, that you guys could be staying at home after a long weekend and joining us today. And thank you, parents, for bringing them here today or joining them today too. So next week, we will have Paul Davis, and he'll be sharing on the trolley that came to Worcester. And then mark your calendars for January 29th. We will actually be kind of going off-site. We're going to be going to the Buckeye Agricultural Museum and Education Center for our meeting. And this is going to be a little different because of the meeting space that's in there is kind of a little tight and for lunch and that. So we're going to have 2 lunches time frames and tour time frames. So it's going to be 11:45 and 12:15. So to make it your life a little easier and not decide which time, we're going to tell you what time you're going to come. No, I'm just joking. But that way we do have enough people at each time frame. If your last name alphabet A through L, if you could come at 11:45, that would be great. If not, 12:15 will work. And then M through Z, 12:15. Okay. There may be some little overlap at the 12:15 for people from the 11:45 for room spacing and that kind of stuff. But just be patient. It's an amazing place. If you haven't been there, come check it out. Listen, Paul Loker's giving tours, right? So if you haven't listened or been in there, it is a pretty neat place. So hopefully you can join that. And then obviously we got our wine and bourbon coming up. We actually have another offsite too coming up in March too. So we have lots of exciting things coming on the agenda. So with that, we hope to see you next week, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. That's awesome. How can you memorize that?